It's time once again for another episode of Atlanta Legal Experts Radio, broadcasting live from the Pro Business Channel studios in Atlanta. And now, here's your host, Emily-Rowell.
Good morning. This is Emily-Rowell with Peachtree Offices, bringing you Atlanta Legal Experts Radio on Voting Day.
Yeah, Super Tuesday.
Super Tuesday. We're so excited, and we have a great guest of candidates this morning.
Most definitely.
Yeah, so we're excited to have a special voting show this morning. I have Andrew Margolis with us. He is candidate for Superior Court of Fulton County. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for coming this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And I also have Kim Childs here for Cobb Superior Court.
Good morning.
Good morning. We can't wait to hear from both of you on this special Super Tuesday. And we also have, last but not least, Craig Williams.
Hey.
Good morning.
And, of course, as Rich said earlier, every Tuesday is a Super Tuesday here.
That's right.
At Pro Business Channel.
That's how we roll.
That's it.
Yay! And we also have, I do not want to forget to mention our sponsors. We have Peachtree Offices. They are all throughout the Atlanta area and help attorneys establish their practice in Atlanta. We have 3A Law Practice Management, helping attorneys start and grow their practice. And we have a new sponsor, Appraisals by Michael. And you can see all of the links to their website on atlantalegalexperts.com. Without further ado, I'm going to introduce to you Ms. Kim Childs. She's running for Cobb Superior Court judge seat, being vacationed by the retiring judge Adele Grubbs. As an attorney, Kim represents businesses and their owners in a variety of business and commercial disputes. She routinely litigates complex matters in courtrooms across Metro Atlanta. She began her practice as an associate attorney on the business litigation team at Hunton & Williams, later joined Wargo & French, LLP, a litigation boutique in Midtown Atlanta, where she continued to represent businesses in sophisticated commercial disputes. In 2007, Kim opened up her own business-focused firm, the Childs Law Firm, LLC, in Vinings. She graduated magna cum laude from Georgia State University College of Law. At GSU, she was on the editorial board of the Law Review and received numerous academic honors. Kim and her husband, David, reside in Smyrna and are the parents of 2 children, Catherine and Ben.
Thank you.
Yes. And tell me how it all began, the running for judge.
The running for judge part has been kind of a new development. Folks ask me often if I've always dreamed of being a judge. But I have to say, one thing that you didn't mention with my background is my first job. I was over in DeKalb County. I was a guard at their jail. So I tell folks that at one point in time, it was my dream to be a guard in the jail. And then I became a paralegal, and then I went to law school, and then I was practicing and opening my own firm. So it's kind of been a step-by-step process.
Wow. And
when Judge Grubbs announced last September that she was retiring, I thought this would be my time.
That is awesome.
Storybook. Sounds like a storybook.
I know. And
the American dream,
yes,
actually.
Of course.
And she's living it. And so to want to be a prison guard.
It was really kind of neat. I was a criminal justice major in undergrad, and the facility that's over on Memorial Drive, I still call it the new jail, even though it was, I think, opened in '95. We had studied about all different types of facilities in my classes, and there I got to see it actually in place. And it was neat, and got to see a lot of different people from different backgrounds than what I'd experienced before.
That is neat. So tell me a little more about your practice. How did you get into the area of business?
Business litigation, the bigger law firms in Metro Atlanta tend to have a very business-focused practice. Mm-hmm. So when I was in law school and interviewing at jobs, Hunton & Williams, the people there, the type of work that they do and the companies that they represent kind of really fit with what I wanted. So that's it's challenging. It's always very interesting because whoever your client is, you have to not only know the law, but learn their business as well.
Sure. Did you focus, and I know that in that one firm with Wargo and French, it was more larger firms. Is that what you still focus on now for your current?
Since I've had my own firm, I opened my own practice in 2007. I've represented primarily mid-sized and small businesses and sometimes just individual business owners. Mm-hmm. My practice lately has been focused on privately held companies whose owners hate each other. I call it business divorces when they kind of split up and break up.
Wow, has that been a little niche of yours to
It
kind of
has.
find? Yeah,
Yeah,
you do
it has
one
been.
or two, and then you realize, hey, I'm really good at this.
There's a lot of emotion involved because when you
Yeah.
build your own business,
It's huge.
it's huge. It's important to you. It becomes a part of you, and people feel very strongly about their business. And if there's a struggle over ownership or control or management, it becomes very personal.
Now, what are one of the biggest mistakes people make in starting their own business?
I would say not having an exit strategy, because when you're going in, you're thinking this. You have these plans to do great things, and no one thinks that failure is going to happen. And it's a reality that some businesses don't make it.
Right.
So having an exit strategy that you and your business partners have hashed out on the front end will help if there's trouble.
That was there was an interview that I had to take, actually. I was on the other end of the table.
Gotcha.
And it was they asked me 5 key things to starting your own practice or business and running it successfully. And the one thing, my very first thing that came to mind was starting with the end in mind. So you're absolutely right. You have all these passions and ideas and things that you want to do to help other people, because that's why we all start businesses, to help people. But you have to also be realistic about it. And so starting with that end plan and then working backwards day by day, and that really keeps you focused.
Yeah, and it prevents the need for hiring lawyers like me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which ideally, I have a client once, and then they never have to see me again, because I'm dealing with people in crisis. If I'm a litigator, I only litigate. I don't do the front end setup stuff. So folks who come to me they're in crisis, which I think also relates very well to the bench, because if you're in front of a superior court judge, you're probably in crisis. Adoption being the one exception to that. Superior court judges handle adoption, which is their feel good work that they can do. Everything else is felonies or divorces or land disputes or trying to make somebody do something or not do something. So those are people in crisis.
Sure. So tell me, where would you, back to your business, where do you think you get the majority of your business from?
The majority of my business comes from other lawyers.
Yes.
I'd say 95% comes from
Wow.
other lawyers.
Wow.
And my business is good. So it's been a big honor for other people in my profession to trust what I do.
That's huge.
That's
Yeah.
good. That's the best business, and to be considered by your peers to refer business to you speaks a lot to your credibility as well. Yeah.
Go ahead. Did you want to ask?
Tell us about Judge Adele Grubbs and your relationship with her.
Well, I've only been before her a couple of times, but she's an amazing woman who was a trailblazer for women in the practice. Anyone who's been before Judge Grubbs knows that she's tough, she's fair, she's impartial, she always follows the rules, and that's someone whose footsteps I would be honored to follow in.
Yeah, and it sounds like you probably would be a great replacement for her as she moves on.
I would like to think so. She's going to stay around. She's going to take senior status, I believe, is my understanding. So she'll stay around.
So it'd be like a mentor of some sort.
I would be honored to have her as a mentor.
Outstanding.
And she had a very strong connection with the domestic law practice. And I think her guidance in those areas would be invaluable to me if I'm successful in my election.
Now, how about your presidency as the elect of the Cobb County Bar Association? How did that come about?
I got involved as soon as I opened my practice in Cobb County. I got involved with the Cobb County Bar Association, which is I'm completely biased here, but I think it's one of the best voluntary bar associations. I'm not going to limit it to Georgia. I would definitely say Southeast. And different sections I was involved with, did some work with, and been on the board of trustees for several years. And the bar is great with keeping everybody focused on professionalism, because you know there's all these lawyer jokes, and you hear about the bad things that lawyers do. There's a lot of really good things that lawyers do.
Yeah.
And the Cobb Bar has a program called the Community Service Fund. Each year they give anywhere between $40,000 and $60,000 in grants to families that are in need in Cobb County. one-time emergency assistance for families, things like they need help. There's a situation in their family budget with their finances, and they need help keeping the lights on. So we get requests through the school system, the social workers at the schools, and help out with that. So it's the professionalism aspect, and then the community service, the give back that the bar does.
She's definitely a holistic candidate. I mean, I'd say, and one great thing that we've been able to experience here at Elle on a weekly basis are those good stories about good attorneys. They don't call themselves good. We have to call them good. But at the same time, hearing the stories of how they got into the practice, you being on both sides, you being able to engage with those who are unfortunately in the jails, but you've learned to have apathy and compassion for those individuals. So as a judge, there needs to be that impartiality where you are able to speak to, the possibilities of what could have happened or transpired, so you can consider both parties. So I'm really encouraged too in Cobb County that we have someone that's going to be wise and unbiased, and fair.
I tell you, one of the things that I took away from the jail, and I think it resonates into all areas of my practice and probably all areas of my life, is that you have to treat people with respect. Folks who are incarcerated for whatever reason, they're still very much people.
Yes, they are.
And I will tell you, I've never been a physically strong girl. So at the young age of 22, when I walked into a pod with 32 male inmates, if I didn't have a good level of respect, if they didn't respect me, I could be in a very dangerous situation.
Yeah.
I never had any problems. So I worked at the jail for 3.5 years.
Wow.
Never had any problems. So you learn to treat people with respect, do what you say you're going to do, and don't make promises you can't keep.
Integral. Yeah.
I really
having
like
that balance. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's talk more about your campaign.
Right. I love talking about my campaign. It's busy. It is networking on steroids.
Is it? Wow.
So I've always had to network for my work. That's how businesses get work. You go out, you're involved with business associations, you're involved with community associations, you talk with other professionals, you lunch a lot, you breakfast a lot. And campaigning is networking on steroids.
Couldn't imagine it.
It's fun, though. You get to meet people that I wouldn't have probably had the opportunity to cross paths with before.
Sure.
So talking about what I want to do and talking about the plans, one of the things that I like to talk about is I run my own business since 2007. I've had anywhere between just me as the employee when I started up to 3 to 4 employees. It's a small law firm, but it's still a business. And the lessons that you learn when you run a business, I think will translate well to the bench and to how you run chambers.
Yeah.
Things like scheduling, calendars. I tell folks, if I had all of my clients show up at 9 o'clock in the morning and told them I would deal with them in the order that I thought was best, I wouldn't have any clients for very long.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's how our judicial system works with calendar calls. Lawyers and their clients and litigants, they show up at 9 o'clock in the morning, and then the judge figures out which ones they're going to take at which time. I think there are some judges that do it differently. I know there's judges that'll schedule people on staggered times. So I think there's other ways to do that. There's lessons that can be taken from how you run a small business into how you would run the business of being on the bench.
Certainly.
That's huge. Now, tell me, what has your biggest challenge been during this campaign?
I think it's probably what every candidate will say, and it's money. Cobb County is a very large county, and it's the election is May 24th. May 24th is the election.
Yes, that was my next question.
Vote Kim Childs. And so in order to get my message, which I think is strong, out to voters that will actually show up on election day, because it's not the presidential primary. There's no contested governor's race. There's not even a congressional race that's contested in Cobb. So we're expecting a low turnout for that election. And so raising the funds to get my message out there. I was successful in the first financial reporting. I reported more funds raised than any other candidate in my race. So my supporters have been very, very helpful in that regard. But it's still a challenge with raising money. It's got to be the hardest ask. It's not tax deductible. So unlike a charity, when you're raising money for a charity, where you can say, hey, it's tax deductible. This one's not. and I can promise nothing in return.
Yeah. So crowdfunding, you'd have to. I mean, since you can't promise anything, crowdfunding would have to be maybe. You can't make any promises, so the return on whatever that investment is, I think. But that'd be interesting to figure out a creative way to do a crowdfunding for your campaign.
And I'm a business girl, so I'm always looking for the return on investment.
Yeah,
It's one thing with my services as a lawyer because I know I'm providing value. But how do I provide value?
Well, putting away the bad people and saving the
well,
good people.
telling her story. I mean, I think it's very important that you talk about being a county jail guard and tell that whole story because people hearing a little bit more about. I mean, we do business with individuals we know, like, and trust. We vote for people we know, like, and trust. And the more they know about you and your story, the more that they have the affinity to like you and trust you. So I think it's very important. I mean, things that we've shared today. I think it's going to be important to share that your story.
And it's a very humbling process too. And when people can't come out and support you, and the things that folks have said has been, it's an honor to do this and have the support from so many people I know, and then there's people I don't know that have been supporting me, and that's
because they've researched. As in this day and age, we could vote from the home in a sense. Make our decisions from the home. It's not like it was every day. I mean, in the past, we had to go pick up the babies and knock on doors all the time, which it's good to still do that.
I'm still knocking on doors.
It's still good to do that, but people are, more prone to hit that search button and see what other people have had to say about you. And I think you're in a great position. I'm glad you said that it's humbling. I mean, you come in from a place of love. Love and humility are undefeated, so remember that.
I will. And
I'm a preacher over here.
I have good parents. My parents were actually missionaries for years and years, and there's no way my mother will let me get too big for my britches.
There you go. That's it. Balance.
What's the most important thing to you as far as your judgeship?
My candidacy, I think the most important thing that I want folks to understand is I have real experience. It's the one thing that I think separates me from the other candidates in my race. It's one thing to sit behind a desk and put people away. It's another thing to have to look these folks in their eyes. It's one thing to understand what it's like for them when they're delayed for a week with getting a hearing for whatever reason, because they're actually incarcerated. And the day-to-day monotony of that and understanding what they go through, I think is something that that separates me, having that experience.
I love that. Do you have a slogan?
Yeah, I sure do. It's real experience, trusted qualifications, and proven leadership. And the real experience talks about from being a guard to being a paralegal, working my way through law school, and then working in big firms and having my own. For trusted qualifications, I'm really honored to be on the top 100 Georgia super lawyers list this year. So that was a pretty good honor. And then proven leadership, I've been involved in a lot of community organizations as well as bar, where I've been in leadership positions.
Don't forget the business approach. All business.
The all business approach too. All business approach.
So tell us again about when and all the good details and how people can come out to vote.
Sure. The election is May 24th. It's the general primary in Cobb. You can start getting absentee ballots. I believe they'll start sending them out April 1st. You can request them online right now. You do have to print out a form that you get online and mail it in to get an absentee ballot. Early voting starts in early May. And you'll have to look on the election board website for that. And then election day is May 24th.
Now, do you have a number they can reach or any what?
The best way to get in touch with me if folks want more information about the campaign or about me is my website, which is www.kimchildsforjudge.com.
Great. Well, thank you so much for coming on today.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm super excited for you.
So am I on this Super Tuesday.
On the Super Tuesday. I didn't even mean to do that. I'm just so natural at this.
Oh, yes, you are.
Great. Well, we'll take a quick break just to mention our sponsors one more time. We have Peachtree Offices, 3A Law Practice Management, and Appraisals by Michael. You can look at all of their information at atlantalegalexperts.com. And also you'll see the guests here today and their bios and all the links to their websites. So how's it going for you, Craig?
Going well.
Yeah?
I'm excited about Miss Childs, though.
I am too.
She's Georgia State Panther, so I've got a lot of connection there.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we also want to introduce Andy Margolis. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for being here. I would love to start with his bio. He is a graduate of Brandeis. I knew that. I was just testing you guys. He is a graduate of Brandeis University. I'm not going to get it right. And Emory University School of Law. He began his legal career as an assistant district attorney responsible for prosecuting some of the most serious crimes in our state. While with the DA's office, Andrew was a relentless advocate on behalf of crime victims and served as lead drug court prosecutor and as a lead domestic violence prosecutor. He entered the private practice of law in 2004 and is a founding member of the Margolis Legal Group, a full-service law firm focused on the representation of individuals accused of crimes throughout the state and those facing family law or domestic issues. Andrew also volunteers to represent those individuals charged with crimes who are too poor to hire their own lawyers. He is on the A list of attorneys in the Gwinnett County Indigent. Say that. Indigent. Thank you. He is on the A list of attorneys in the Gwinnett County Indigent Defense roster, which means he is handpicked by judges to take on the most serious and high-stakes cases. In 2012, Andrew was appointed judge of the Magistrate Court of Fulton County, and now, in addition to maintaining his law practice, presides over all manner of civil cases and misdemeanor and felony criminal cases in the Magistrate, State, and Superior Courts of Fulton County. He is now seeking election as judge of the Fulton County Superior Court. Fantastic. And you live in Atlanta with your wife, Mindy, and your children, Robbie and Lily, and their dogs, Chester and Maggie.
That's right.
That's so funny. My daughter's name's Maggie. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you so much. And both of you have children. I meant to ask him that, and we've got ahead of ourselves. But I mean, to be able to do it all, you've got the family, you've got the practice, and you've got your campaign for judge. So tell me a little bit about how that is.
It's kind of crazy. Running a law practice is a full-time job. Raising a family is a full-time job. Campaigning for judge, I'm learning, is also a full-time job. So basically, I just don't sleep.
Well, you look great.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah. So tell me, how did you start serving as judge? Can you tell me kind of the path you took?
Well, I started as a prosecutor in the DA's office, in Northwest Georgia, there is no way to get a lot of there's no better way to get a lot of trial experience very, very quickly than to work as a district attorney because you're trying cases all the time. And I was inspired by my boss, the elected DA. And by they had an excellent bench where I was, so I had several different judges that I practiced in front of routinely, who served as role models, and and the more I was in there, trying cases and serving the community and watching, really learning the roles, the different roles that everybody played in the court system. I've always felt that judges are in a singular position to directly affect so many people's lives, even more than a prosecutor or a defense lawyer or any other type of attorney. I mean, judges deal directly with so many people, and the decisions that judges make can have such a large effect on the community. And I knew very early on that's what I wanted to do. So as I built my practice and as I built my reputation, people started to notice me, I guess. So I was towards the end of 2012, I got a call from the chief judge of the Fulton County State Court and asked me if I'd be interested in serving as a magistrate. And it wasn't even was not a hard decision to
Sure,
make. I mean, it
sure.
was a very easy decision to make. I mean, sure, sign me up.
Right.
And
It's
I've
like,
been,
let me think about that. Okay.
and I've been doing that. And the only distinction in Fulton County between a full-time and a part-time magistrate judge is that are the number of hours that you work. It's got nothing to do with with what your actual. I mean, it's the same responsibility, the same calendars, the same types of cases that you're hearing. The only difference is that I don't have an office in the in the suite over there.
Sure.
But I hear all the criminal matters, all of the the general civil matters, small claims, dispossessories, garnishment cases, all pretty much everything you can think of. Anything that we can do without a jury, we do in magistrate court.
Wow. So tell me, how important is it to have a diverse background in the law while serving as a judge?
That's a really good question, and it is so important to have a diverse background in the law while serving as a judge. I have two opponents that I'm running against who do not have diverse backgrounds in the law. I am trained as a prosecutor. And I have that experience, but I am also a practicing criminal defense attorney. And I am the only candidate in my race that has that dual experience. I'm the only candidate in my race who is a sitting magistrate court judge that sits in criminal cases and decides those issues. I'm the only candidate in my race who has any kind of civil experience at all, other than domestic relations. I have another opponent who is comes from a family law background, and that's all he does. That's all he's ever done, and I have that experience as well. It's very important. I mean, how you can't learn on the job.
Sure.
I mean, of course, no judge knows everything.
Sure.
But it's important. I think it's important to have perspective and experiences going in that form the basis of the decisions that you make.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You said you can't learn on the job, and I understand that you do learn on the job, but you don't want to learn on the job at the expense of the people that you're representing.
Right.
And so
right.
I see clearly what you're trying to say there.
That's right. And I've
Good point.
as an attorney who tries criminal cases, I can tell you and I can promise you firsthand that to have to try a case to a judge, to have to try a criminal case to a judge with no experience in trying criminal cases can be a disaster.
Yeah.
And I can personally attest to that.
Bottom line, you don't want to be in court, but if you have to be in court, it's very important that you know that the judge that you're before has a great reach, and it sounds like you have that great reach.
And a balanced experience as
Yeah.
well. I have an opponent whose entire experience consists of prosecuting cases.
Yeah.
And you bring your own perspectives and biases one way or another to the bench with you. It's important to have a balanced approach. I mean, every candidate for judicial office, when they're running, every candidate is going to tell you, I can be fair, I'm going to be fair, I'm going to be fair and impartial. But I've got to question how fair can you really be when you've spent your entire career just looking at one side of an issue.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to be that way. I am going to be fair because I've looked at both sides of the issue. I live both sides of the issue.
So, and I'm glad you mentioned that. So, to what extent does a person's personality and temperament affect their ability to be a good judge?
Well, sometimes you have to separate your raw feelings from what it takes to be a good judge.
Emotions.
Sometimes, and you have to be able to follow the law. It's not just about the legal issues in the case, and to that extent, you're formed, as a judge and an attorney, you're influenced a lot by your experience, and by your early experiences, and by the people around you that have mentored you and have trained you. And in my early experience, I was very lucky to be trained and mentored by an elected district attorney who cared more about doing justice than his office's conviction rate. And that experience, and he encouraged all of us, to do what we felt was the right thing with our cases, and to not be afraid to dismiss a case that needed to be dismissed, or if we had a case that we felt strongly about. That in the big scheme of things wasn't the most serious case. He encouraged us to stick to our guns on those as well, depending on what we felt was the right thing on each case. So that was a tremendous positive influence on me, and that translates over to every area of practice.
Yeah. So there's a lot of people out there assume that because you've represented people accused of crimes, that there's a concern that possibly that you'd be soft on crime.
That's a good question, and I can understand why some people might feel that way. I would say that anyone who really does feel that way, I think, doesn't really understand the role that the different players play in the legal system. It is we all have roles to play. It is a prosecutor's job. It is a prosecutor's job to prosecute. It's a prosecutor's job to do justice and to advocate for the best interests of whatever community that they're in, that they're serving. The role of a defense attorney is very, very different. Your role as a defense attorney is to advocate for a client.
Yes.
That doesn't mean that you agree with what that client is accused of doing. It doesn't mean that you personally are vouching for this person. It doesn't mean that.
Yeah.
And then your role as a judge is to look at both sides and look at each individual case and to do what's right and to do what's fair. And my record shows that if you take a look at my record as a magistrate, my record clearly shows that I'm not soft on crime. I mean, as a magistrate, it's my responsibility to tell police whether I'm going to sign their arrest warrant that's going to let them take somebody to jail, or whether I'm going to sign a search warrant that's going to let them kick in your door at 3 o'clock in the morning. Our police are well trained. I generally approve more arrest warrants than I deny. I preside regularly over first appearance hearings, where I'm responsible for setting a bond for somebody who's
You're on the
accused.
front lines, man. I mean, you sound like our future Superior Court judge in Cobb County, Ms. Kim Childs, who, actually she was a guard. So, I mean, you've been on the front lines, and that's much appreciated. And I think the more people hear about that, it's going to be important that people hear that story, that full round, that he too is a holistic candidate as well. So
thank you. And one of the things that you learn as a magistrate is that it's not your job to either be soft on crime or tough on crime. It's your job to look at the individual case and do what the situation calls for. And sometimes it's going to mean being tough, and sometimes it's going to mean being a little bit less tough. It's on a case by case basis.
Balance from Brandeis University and Emory.
Yes, sir.
Brandeis.
Yeah. It's a good school. Incredible school.
Great. So tell me, what has been your biggest challenge during the campaign?
Well, like Ms. Childs, I mean, it's money. It's all about the money. You have to be able to raise enough money to be able to get your message out, because it doesn't matter. Going to events is important. Meeting people is important. Shaking hands is important. But you can't possibly reach the number of people that you need to reach in order to get the number of votes that you need to win an election. So you have to do that in other ways, and these are ways that take large amounts of money. So it's, a lot of time is spent fundraising. I spend a lot of time on the phone.
Yeah.
Just trying to network and raise money. So that I can do what I need to do to get my message out.
Those impressions that you're making, are they just for the local, or is it good to have an impression outside of your geographic to influence people too? consider you?
Well, certainly. I mean, the more people that know you, the better off you are. I mean, as far as votes are concerned, I mean, obviously you have to be a Fulton County resident to vote in an election in Fulton County.
But Georgia's a melting pot, and so there's influence that comes from everywhere. And
that's
people
right.
Are,
and
transit.
you can get money from anywhere.
Exactly.
You can get money from anywhere. So I have a lot of support from attorneys that I work with in Gwinnett County. Who can't vote in Fulton County, but they practice and they work in Fulton County, and they understand how important it is to have somebody on the Superior Court bench with a balanced experience, who is not, who doesn't just have experience in one narrow area of the law.
So you're talking about Fulton County, and it's important to be involved and interested in or invested in your community. What things do you do in the community to be involved and give back?
Sure, I'm on the I'm active in my synagogue, and that's where most of my community activity occurs, because that's where most of the people that I do these activities with tend to be. And I belong to a Havath Achim synagogue in Atlanta. I was on the board of directors there. I am the choir director there.
Really?
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm in addition to everything else I do, I'm also a professional or semi-professional musician.
Wow.
So I play bass and drums and keyboards, and I sing, and that's kind of what I did all through law school. I was playing out, throughout the Atlanta area, 3-4 nights a week.
They have a powerful. I went on tour with Emory back in the '90s. They got a powerful gospel choir over there.
Neat.
Yeah. Do you have a key of E over there, Rich? Can you key of E, maybe F
He's
sharp?
like, no.
I'm glad it came up. As working as a musician, I get to meet a lot of people that I wouldn't ordinarily meet in my practice.
That's fun.
And some of the folks I meet as a musician also have experience with the legal system in one way or another. Some of these folks have known me, for years and years and years, since before I started law school. They've watched me come up. So there's a support system there.
There you go.
As well. But yeah, we're involved in Habitat for Humanity. We do the Hunger Walk every year. Things like that.
That's very important. What is your slogan?
My slogan?
Yes, or do you have a
Your
slogan?
mission statement.
Your
How about
mission
that?
statement.
Yeah. My campaign is stressing honesty, integrity, and dedication. Those things have become more relevant, in recent days as we've heard some unfortunate stories about, judges doing things that they really ought not to do. Some of it intentionally and some of it not so intentionally. And I think, I think those qualities are important. And that is the feeling that I'm trying to convey. When the advice that I got, when you put a slogan out there, it should be, how do you want people to think of you? What words do you want people associated with you? And rather than try to come up with some kind of a catchphrase, I felt that I just this is what I want people to say about me.
Organic.
He's honest. He'll give you an honest opinion. He will act honestly, and not try to interpret the law in such a way to arrive at the result that he's already decided is how it should be. And that's not how judges ought to work, and that ties in with the integrity also. And then I don't think, and I want people to say that I work until the job is done. Access to our courts have been a big issue. And I really feel for some of the civil attorneys out there who can't get, and civil clients who can't get their cases heard because the court's criminal dockets are all backed up. That is something I hope to address as a Superior Court judge. I think we need to work on our access to the courts. I can tell you personally, in my courtroom as a magistrate, I mean, I don't put cases over. I mean, I don't leave until the last case of the day is heard, and if that means stay until all hours, then that's what we do.
Fantastic, Mr. Andrew Margolis, Superior Court of Fulton County.
Thank you very much.
Presently
Yes.
magistrate judge.
Yes.
Yes. Tell us the details of your campaign, where people can come out to vote, all that good stuff.
Well, like Ms. Child's election, our election is May 24th. So we ask you to please come out and vote. If you'd like to find out more about me, you can go to our website at www.electjudgemargolis.com. The campaign is also on Facebook. The name of the page is Elect Judge Margolis, so it's facebook.com/Elect Judge Margolis. You can email the campaign. You can email me directly at electjudgemargolis@gmail.com. And I'm always happy to hear from anybody who has something to say.
Fantastic. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
A great message from both of our candidates, and we're just so excited to have them on the show today. What a super Tuesday it was.
Yes, it was.
Yes. So this is Emily Rowell with Atlanta Legal Experts Radio. We'll look forward to being here next week.
Thank you again for joining Emily Rowell and her guests on the Pro Business Channel. Use the social media links here to share today's show, and stay tuned for the next episode of Atlanta Legal Experts Radio.